Good morning. Pleasure being here. And as a lawyer, it is even more pleasure to talk to two founders who actually do the work. So, hi, Einat. Hi, Daniel. Let's start with an introduction, and then we'll jump right in.
Hi, I'm Einat. I started as an algorithms developer. I have a PhD in mathematics from Tel Aviv University. Then managed a few R&D organizations, the last of which is SimilarWeb, that IPO'd in May of 2021. And in the last 6 years almost, I've been the CEO and co-founder of lakeFS. We do scalable data version control, which is the basis for our control plane for AI-ready data.
Hi everyone, I'm Daniel. I'm the co-founder and CTO CPO of April. What we do in April is that we build embedded tax applications, or more simply, a virtual CPA of sort that helps people optimize and file their taxes. Prior to that, I've spent a long time in Google doing many different roles, mostly around data science and AI, leading data teams, and starting this motion called full cycle data science on how to get applications with AI to productions really fast and spread that across different teams in Google and the industry.
Thank you, guys. So the last panel tried not to mention the word AI. We'll try not to mention the word cyber. Let's try to do that. So let's jump right in. We see organizations shifting from BI-driven analytics to AI infrastructures. So I'm wondering what new technological needs are emerging these days, and what new types of companies are being created around this shift. And also, if you can say a few words, when we talk about AI infrastructure, what exactly does it mean? I mean, what are the layers, what are the components, what companies need to buy or build themselves?
Okay, that's a lot. It will take the whole day, so brace yourselves. Okay, I'll try and be very short. So there are the GPUs, right? So we all know about those. But two interesting things are happening with them. So one is that if you're on a public cloud, you would probably have both availability issues and cost issues, which means optimizing the costs around your GPUs will become very important. So companies around that exist and are still coming in. It's a very interesting subject. Another way of coping with that would be moving your GPUs on-prem. And then they're not as expensive, but you have to manage them yourselves. And then you also have to shift your storage, another point. So if 6 or 7 years ago we saw everyone moving to cloud storage, because the AI ecosystem is moving back on-prem in enterprises, we see actually the domain of storage on-prem back in the game, including innovation. Must mention vast data, for example, being very successful in providing that infrastructure. And that's around hardware or hardware with software. There are also clouds that are specific for AI, right? And they provide those two components I've just talked about specifically for AI. So the GPUs, the compute, and the underlying storage with the performance required for AI. If we look at them, we will see that they're also shifting to software infrastructure. For example, CoreWeave buying Ways and Biases, which is an end-to-end MLOps system that is now going to be introduced within their AI cloud. It's an interesting story because Ways and Biases, just one sentence, comes from the MLOps domain that is actually dying. So they're either being acquired or they're shifting to doing observability for models. You can see that shift with Comet, for example, and many other players in that domain. To continue talking about software, the main challenge with AI is that the data is no longer only structured data, and all organizations are going into actually analyzing unstructured, semi-structured, or what is now called multimodal data. And the entire infrastructure need to accommodate for that. So object storage is accommodate for that anyway, but the software around it should accommodate as well. And then we're getting to products like ours, lakeFS, that manages data no matter what the type of data is, catalogs that need to adjust, and being able to discover and manage data that is not necessarily structured, orchestration and observability and quality that should not only focus on structured data, but also be able to react to unstructured and semi-structured data, and of course support model quality as well. So we see in that category of observability the shift towards those needs as well.
Thank you. Daniel, so you have a lot of experience building AI products. So these shifts in infrastructure, how do these actually affect the way you design and deploy your AI products?
Yeah, so I'll continue talking about software and exactly what Einat said about the MLOps domain kind of dying in the last years. So what was very common, let's say 5 years ago, is to build an AI application at the time called machine learning, not AI, and get it to production. You had to have a team of PhDs spend months of collecting very large data sets, training models, fine-tuning them, analyzing the results, putting a lot of like guardrails in place in order to get something into production. That used to be a lot of work and a lot of expertise by data scientists trying to avoid overfitting, hyperparameter tuning, and so on. And there's been since then a huge paradigm shift towards using LLMs, which are so incredibly simpler in many, many ways. So in regards to data, instead of thousands to hundreds of thousands of examples, you really need a handful to make them understand your use case. There's almost no training anymore, not even fine-tuning. There's maximum RAG, which is retrieval augmented generation. And the newer models, you don't even need that sometimes. So the entry for barrier in order to get something into production, not just shrinked, but really collapsed. So it's so much easier to do things, which really shifted the weight from data scientists and AI experts to engineers. Engineers using LLMs as like just another API call, just another tool in their stack, which changes how things work, which changes what you want to hire, how you want to get things to production, how fast you can get it, and focusing the work that you do not really on the model itself, but getting the best data for it, putting it in production, creating evals and monitoring and observability on top of it, so you can easily see if it works well or not. And that kind of shift makes this whole domain very, very different for everyone that's building in it.
And a word about security in any event. I mean, we're using a lot of AI infrastructure these days. How do these intersect with security and integrity? I mean, our companies are exposing themselves even more these days to new cyber and security risks, and how do you guys mitigate those risks?
Yeah, 100%. So as every new domain, there are risks, and those are pretty much underestimated because everything's so new. But there's a lot of talk about different types of risks. One is, like the most common one is data leakage, where the model can actually access data from other users and don't do exactly what you want it to do because it has capabilities of reasoning and it might think that it needs some other pieces of data that it's not allowed to access. And there's data poisoning, and there's more and more things. Even just last week, Anthropic published a large article about finding a group that used Anthropic and Claude Code in order to create agents to hack into enterprises. So there's many, many different risks, and like every hyped domain, there's tons of new startups trying to solve exactly that. So I'm very optimistic that there's a lot of good solutions in the market for dealing with those.
Let's talk a bit about various angles of competition. So, Einat, I mean, are we talking about only giants leading the way when it comes to AI infrastructure, or do you see any new opportunities for even smaller players to participate in this market and maybe offer some other solutions as well?
I think that Daniel and I are seeing completely different worlds, right? Because I am seeing the world where people are still really training models. Enterprises are not just going to export their IP to someone else. And by enterprises, I don't only mean Google. I also mean a 10,000 people company that has the resources to have its own IP. So I do not predict a world where everything just goes into OpenAI, or if it dies, to someone that economically makes sense and provides a model. I don't see that world coming. I see it remaining this market where a lot of the models are developed and optimized specifically for companies and industries, allowing them a competitive advantage. Not to say that in other things they won't be using the general models offered and use agentic systems. I do believe agents have merit, but not instead of models themselves. And for data infrastructure, I sure miss the days where you just used Postgres. That was great. There was an answer. It was good. It was a great answer. But for 15 years now, there is no answer with data infrastructure. There aren't any good practices, and it's only going to get worse. So I think although we do see giants that are emerging or existing, like Databricks, we see what happened to Snowflake that went all the way up just to realize that it is now not dealing with the right set of data. So very hard for them to deal with semi-structured, unstructured. They're in a halt. So I think there is the revolution is just starting, and the opportunities are huge.
And Daniel, we talked the other day in a world where LLMs are accessible to everyone. What does exactly does it mean even to be an innovative company these days, as opposed to just operational company, where companies can find their competitive edge?
Yeah, it's a good question, because the answer really changes from previous years where a lot of companies really competed in multiple domains where you had forecasting recommendations and so on, and who has the better model and the better accuracy based on that, where mostly what you see these days is that models aren't really a moat anymore, and the best models out there that come out every other week are just getting better and better and accessible for everyone. And the shift really becomes that instead of the model being the moat, your data and your expertise or your domain expertise is the thing that starts to be the moat for you. So it's a lot easier for competition to rise now and start doing something that sounds exactly like what you're doing. And in order to keep being a differentiated company, it's really important to find ways to use proprietary data. So for example, at April, we collect a lot of text data and we improve year over year because we feed that into our models. We collect text documents, multimodal data. And as we go on and on, our models get better and better. Acknowledging that we're built on foundational models from other companies, but no one can just write to ChatGPT, please solve my taxes. Fortunately for us, it does not work. But with the right data sets and domain expertise, you can actually get there.
And quick question to the two of you. Since AI have not replaced us yet, we still need to hire good people to our companies. So what set of skills each of you is looking for when someone comes to an interview, and how did that change this year or two, this past year or two?
I was always in favor of hiring generalists that kind of do a bit of everything and can learn quite fast and deep dive into different domains when necessary. I think that's much more visible now that everyone can use an LLM, everyone can use AI, everyone can write code with AI and can actually ask it some very specific questions about the domain. So I really prefer generalists that are really smart, creative, know how to frame problems really well, and tuning them on what's the most important problem for April at a time.
Yeah, so for me also not much changed. So it's software engineers, back-end, very deep software engineering. I don't see machines replacing them anytime soon, but maybe accelerating them, so I'll need slightly less engineers.
So one question to the two of you, one last question to the two of you. I have 3 kids. The older one will go to the university in 10 years from now. So what do you guys think will be the set of skills, or what kind of fields will kids today will learn in universities 10 years from now? Einat.
I'd say plumbing probably is the best thing. Yeah. Yeah, stuff like that. Things you do with your hands. Robotics is way behind, so that would give them another 20 years.
Agree
Optimistic.
that things you do with your hands is a really important thing. Robotics will come to do that as well sometime in the future, but also specifically around software. So I think that the raw skills like coding will start not disappearing, but changing and become less important than problem framing, system thinking, and so on. So I'd say that things like information systems and business will be more common, and they will pretty much change. It's not the same degree and same courses that you learn now in information systems. It will be more around thinking, problem framing, and how to use tools like AI and vibe coding in order to get your idea out there.
Thank you, Einat. Thank you, Daniel. And
Thank you.
enjoy the rest of the week. Thank you.
Thanks.